When we're multiplying decimals, it's not like addition and subtraction of decimals. We don't line up the decimals. In fact, we sort of ignore them until we're ready to use them. For example, multiply 3/10 times 8. That means I'm multiplying 0.3 times 8. Now I see in my problem here that I have a total of 1 decimal point, so I need to make sure that 1 decimal point is also in my answer. If I multiply 8 times 3, as if the decimals aren't there, I get 24. But then I have to remember there should be 1 decimal in there, so if I put 1 decimal place in when I'm done, it becomes 2.4. If I wanted to check this out and just make sure it worked as a fraction, 3/10 times 8 also looks like this. 3/10 times 8. If I multiply these, I get 24/10, which is 2 4/10, which absolutely matches this answer, which is also 2 4/10. As we move on to the next one, 3/10 times 6/10. Well, I know when I set this up, 3/10 times 6/10. I'm well aware that I see that in this problem there are 2 decimal points. So in my answer there's going to have to be 2 decimal points. 6 times 3 is 18. I'm pretty much done this problem, except I need to remember 2 decimal places need to go over here. So I'll put my decimal point here. So my answer is 0.18 or 1800ths. If I want to check it, I can look at it as if it were a fraction. So this is also 3/10 times this is also 6/10. If I multiply my denominators, which is my numerators, I get 18. If I multiply my denominators, I get 100. And I would say this is 1800ths, and that is also 1800ths. As I move into my last one here, this is 5 7/10 times 4/10. I see in my problem here again, I've got 2 decimal places, so I better have 2 decimal places in my answer. When I do my multiplication, 4 times 7 is 28. 4 times 5 is 20, plus 2 more is 22. And I have to remember that I have to have 2 decimal places in my answer, so I'll put them here. If I want to check it, I could. 5 7/10 times 4/10. This becomes 57/10 times 4/10. 57 times 4 is 228, and 10 times 10 is 100. And if I simplify that, that's 2 2800ths. And this is also 2 2800ths. You can try these on your own, and you can do them all and then pause it and watch me go over it, or you can do them one at a time and pause it as I go over each one. As we look at the first one, 6 times 7/10. So that's just 6. Maybe I should put the larger, the one with more digits up top. This is also 6 times 7/10. That's 2, 4. And I see there's 1 decimal place, so 1 decimal place here. My answer is 4.2, or 4 2/10. If I wanted to do it as 6 over 1 times 7/10, it becomes 42/10, which is also 4 2/10, which matches up perfectly with my answer here. As I look in at the next one, 5/10 times 8/10, I can set that up as 5/10 times 8/10. I see that my problem has 2 decimal places in it, so I'll make sure there's 2 of my answers. 8 times 5 is 40. That problem's pretty much over. I need 2 decimal places. 0.40 or 40 hundredths, or I could just call it 4/10. If I were to do it fractionally, this is 5/10. This is 8/10. If I multiply them, I get 41 hundredths. And that also is 41 hundredths. They match up. The last one, I'm going to put my longer number up top here times 9.3. If I multiply these, 27. 8 times 3 is 24 plus 2 more is 26. Then I'm going to move over here to the 10s, so I'll put a 0 in the 1s. 9 times 9 is 81. 9 times 8 is 72 plus 8 more is 80. If I add these up, 7, 7, 2, 8. But I see my problem here. I had 3 decimal places, so I'm going to make sure to put 3 decimal places in my answer. 8.277, or 8 and 277 thousandths.